Morning everybody, this is Phil Beckwith, the professional painter and decorator. Back, and I'm not going to say an endorsement or anything like that, and I know that you see a paper motion in the corner. This is far from a paper motion by anybody. The paper motion just relates to the Amazon associate links that I've got in the description below. But you've seen the thumbnail, and I'm not one that always, let's just say, stands at the top of a mountain and sings the praises of Johnstones paints. Not all the time. But I have to say there is a product that I do like that they do, and it is this. Now it's obviously the trade one, because we're in the trade, we use the trade paints. It's the Acrylic Durable Matt paint. Now you're going to say, Phil, why are you saying that this is a really good paint? Well, the job we're on at the moment, you can see we've got some dark walls behind us. We've got a bit of a scenario where the ceiling and part of these walls that you can probably see around me have been done previously when this was a renovation, when it was rebuilt, and this was an extension, and it was clearly done in cheapo paint. We'll call it contract mats, because it was very patchy. It was uneven as surface finish. You could see where it was a bit hit and miss. So we've come in and we wanted a white matte paint on the ceiling that will also do the walls as well. Now, without going to use, well, on the other ceilings I've used ice matte ceiling paint. I didn't want to use a ceiling paint that's dedicated as an anti-reflex paint like Tikkurila or anything like that on the ceiling and walls, even though you could do. I wanted something more durable, because just there, I don't know, you can just see it in there, there's a log burner. And from the log burner and general heat of the room, the walls are getting a little bit grubby. So to be safe, to be better safe than sorry, we've gone for a durable mat, one that you could wipe down if there's any marks. So the durable mat that we've gone for on the ceiling and the walls is this Johnstones Acrylic Durable Matt. And I have to say, I know I'm not one that will be singing the praises of Johnston's paints all the time, because even though the Aquaguard's all right, it isn't a go-to paint for me. I think there's better paints out there. But this has gone as a white paint on a ceiling that was very unevenly patchy. If you know what I mean by unevenly patchy, you could tell that somebody hasn't really given it a good coat. It applied lovely. It didn't need thinning. And I know there's some people out there that want to be thinning paint every time they open the lid. They put water to it without even testing it. I tested this on a section of wall, and it, even though it felt actually quite thick in the tin, it applied like melted butter. Do you know what I mean? It went on a dream. It actually went on quite smooth application. It brushed out nice. It flowed out nicely. So doing the ceiling, cutting in, and the cutting in brush was the lick brush. I'll just get it. As if by magic I appear again. You know what I like? I like that lick 3-inch for cutting in and just generally getting the paint on, cutting in a room, cutting in a wall, not for actually cutting in to get sharp edges, but actually just to go round. You know what I mean. Anyway, yeah. So we cut it in and then we rolled it, and I've stuck with a long pile because I needed to get the paint on, because I didn't want to be running out of paint as I was rolling it. The Rotor Golds, and I do like the Rotor Golds, but this is a white paint. Class 1 scrub test rated, which is great. These are the new tins. These are the new paints that have got the mould resistant element to it, which is good. I'll come on to that in a minute. But it's tough, durable, washable, ideal for high wear traffic areas, resist moisture and yellowing. And I have to say that white, and Brian, say hello, Brian. Brian's been with us since... Brian. Hello, Brian. Brian's been with us since 1966. We can't get rid of him. Part of the family. Even Brian says he couldn't believe when he was up a pair of steps looking across the ceiling back to the light, which we've got a big light source there, how much bit is wrong. He couldn't believe the lack of flashing that we were seeing with the durable matte paint, because some paints that are durable do show brush marks and roller marks. We weren't seeing anything, and as I've come today to see it now, it's dried from yesterday. We're going to say a blind man on a galloping horse isn't going to be looking at anything like that, are they? Because they'll just look up at the ceiling like I'm doing, and you're not going to be seeing any flashing. And when I mean flashing, picture framing, whatever you want. I don't want to see bands of a roller. I don't want to see where I've cut in, and it's not done that. And you shouldn't be seeing that with a matte paint or a flat paint, which normally you don't do you? People go for contract mats because it is a lower sheen level, so you don't actually see anything like that. But with a durable, there's a tendency that you might see that sort of thing, and this hasn't done it. So this has ticked all the boxes that we needed for doing wall areas that needed to be white, the ceiling to be white, and it's actually a very good white. It's got like a pop of, I don't know how you describe it. Some whites seem a little bit yellowed or just a bit grey. This doesn't seem like that. This actually does seem a proper white paint. So if you're wanting something that does ceilings and walls all in one, and the price of this is pretty good. It's not too extortionate. You're not looking at 150 quid for a 10 litre tub. You're probably looking about half of that, aren't you? But this, I will say, I've been very impressed with it. And the other reason I've been impressed with it, we've had some feature walls on this job to do, and we've used it as a feature wall colour. Now that colour is mixed up to as near as damn it. And we explained to the customer that it might not be exactly the same as the colour card, but that is card room green, a Farrow & Ball colour. Now, if it was slightly off and we got a proper card room green from Farrow & Ball next, it didn't matter. It was just the effect we wanted. That, as a dark colour, went for 2 coats. And you're going to say, Phil, it should go for 2 coats. I know it should go for 2 coats, but I've had these sorts of colours mixed in Tikkurila Optiva 5 a number of years ago, and I've been 2, 3, 4 coats in before it started to cover. I had a feeling that that paint wasn't mixed right with the right base, but doesn't matter. It was a dark colour that wasn't actually going on the surface and actually covering like it should do. This is covered for 2. Brian used this in the entrance hall as a feature, and he brushed it because it was a small area. He didn't need to actually get a roller out, and he brushed it. There's very, very little brush marks showing because it flowed out beautifully. And the other advantage, which I mentioned earlier, again, the mould resistance. I've been in another room and used this paint, and back of the wardrobe that I pulled out, there was just signs of, not black mould, but you could just see little spores on the surface where it's been cold. We wiped it off. It didn't need any bleach water or anything. Bleach water, shouldn't really use that. Didn't need any proper cleaning down. It was more of a case of dusting off. But this will be a bit resistant to any mould that is forming like that. So you could use it in a bathroom, couldn't you, if you wanted to, this acrylic durable mat. And again, very impressed. The colour match isn't actually too bad against the Farrow & Ball colour, but I would say I will use this again. Now, I've said many a time, there's a lot of good paints out there, and some people are, I'm not saying criticising, because I'm far from somebody who's going to be criticised, but a lot of people say, oh, Phil, you use a paint and you say how good it is. Do you know what? If you use a paint, and I do say it's good, I'm going to tell you. If you use a paint that isn't so good, I'm going to tell you. And there are some paints that I've used in that playlist that I'm not too, I will say no more, not too enamoured with, but that's how it goes. But this I've been quite pleased with, and I will use it again because it gives you everything that you need. And one of the main things that some of these paint manufacturers got to realise is if we need a paint, we need it virtually straight away, like off the shelf. And this is a paint I could get off the shelf from brewers. You could get it from Paintwell. You could get it from the Johnstones shops themselves. You could get it off the shelf. Now, particularly with this job, colours were picked a bit last minute. I couldn't wait for a next day delivery because by the time the paint had arrived, I'd be losing half a morning or actually a day by the time it arrived. So this off the shelf ticks that box. And there are some good paints out that I've tried recently that aren't on shelves that I would like to use more and more, but unfortunately because they're not on the shelf and I can't get them quick enough for how a job is being worked and planned, it's unfortunate, but they don't get used, and I have to use an alternative. And this has been an alternative that's ticked all the right boxes. So I'm going to say to you, don't just take my word for it. Give it a go. See what you think. But the application, the flowing out, lack of brush marks, because you don't see any brush marks when you come to it, it's a nice paint. I'm going to say, have PPG change their formulations on paint? I'm not sure. But I'd use this over using Cover Plus or the matte paints, because actual vinyl mats I have got a little bit of a gripe about. They do seem to show picture framing and they mark easy. The flat vinyl mats do actually seem to mark, whereas this is a lot better for that sort of thing. So I've spoken enough now. I've kept it about 10 minutes. And yeah, give it a go. Thank you very much. And yeah, nice paint. Very impressed.